Let's go back to Imtiaz Tyab, who is joining us now from Doha, Qatar, on the phone. Imtiaz, our own senior correspondent here at CBS News, Matt Gutman, had let us know that he asked Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's advisor, Michael Eisenberg, today about Mojtaba Khamenei today, and that his advisor basically called him a dead man walking, per your point that you were telling us within the last half hour. Eisenberg telling Matt, the highest risk job right now is to be the new Ayatollah. Those are high-risk jobs. Don't take them. Matt followed up with they're going to be targeted. Eisenberg saying don't take those jobs. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been incredibly clear about this. These are high-risk jobs. We're watching it. What do you make of that?
It absolutely is. Look, it's very clear that by being elected, the new supreme leader by this 88 board, member council, again, a signal to Iranians and indeed the world that the system is still intact. It is still able to function in the way that it has been, despite the fact so much of it has been decimated, that they are under extraordinary incoming from the U.S. They want to signal not only is the system, not only is the regime intact, but more importantly, they have this continuity candidate who happens to be the son of the former supreme leader. Again, as we were saying when we were speaking earlier, I can't think of a more antagonistic selection for supreme leader than Mojtaba Khamenei, at least when it comes to President Trump and indeed to the Israeli leadership. How the Iranian state will protect him and keep him safe, given what we've seen time and again, which is the deep intelligence on the ground that the U.S. and Israel has inside Iran, again, able to kill the supreme leader within the very first hours of their war in Iran, or with Iran, rather. It does seem that Mojtaba Khamenei most certainly is under a lot of threats and is no doubt somewhere very secure. But again, it also seems that for the Iranian regime and those who are leading it, and the most powerful forces, it has to be said, inside Iran, are the Revolutionary Guard Corps, who are, again, this potent, powerful military force, who Mojtaba Khamenei, it has to be said, has spent a lot of time cultivating very close ties with. It is one of the things that has become the most notable sort of fact point or data point about him is again and again you will read and you will hear from people who say he is very close to the Revolutionary Guard. And so whether he is just a figurehead, although one would imagine, given the fact that he was the son of the very all-powerful supreme leader, that he would not be accepting some sort of junior position, that we can expect more of the same. Some even going further, suggesting that he's even more hardline than his father, even more extreme than his father. At this stage, we just don't know who Mojtaba Khamenei, as supreme leader, is going to be. Again, this is a man who has never given a public speech. This is a man who has been seen but not heard. And so what he is going to say to the Iranian people, what he is going to say to President Trump and indeed the Israeli leadership, I think much of what happens in the next coming hours, potentially days and weeks, will hinge on what we hear from him.
Imtiaz, I am curious, before we go back to Courtney Kealy with some analysis on this, if you can tell me what day-to-day life has been looking like in Doha, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's a really important part of this equation. Yes, the U.S. and Israel and Iran are central to everything that we're talking about right now. But the Gulf has really been absorbing some of the biggest shocks here. Iran, of course, under fire, and we're seeing in Lebanon as well. But the Gulf, again, because there are so many U.S. military bases here in the region, the Iranian leadership has effectively said everything is up for grabs because Gulf territory is being used to target us. It is now a target for us. And to give you a window on just how things are looking on the ground, Kuwait City, just this morning, a strike set the country's main Social Security headquarters on fire. Again, you have to understand, Kuwait has one of the most powerful currencies in the world. One Kuwaiti dinar is worth around $10. It just gives you a sense of the wealth and the sort of comfort that people are used to in this part of the world, largely have created these economies where they've insulated themselves from the wars that you've seen just grip so many other parts of the Middle East. And within a week, that feels for many of them shattered. Again, the UAE, Bahrain, other Gulf states say their air defenses are still intercepting Iranian missiles and drones every single day. And we also heard that at least one water desalination plant was targeted. And this is significant because targeting a water desalination plant, not only is it a potential war crime because millions of people rely on it, it means that not only is energy infrastructure being targeted, that is oil and gas, it also means the very thing that people need to survive, water, is now being targeted. And so for Gulf kingdoms who are incredibly wealthy, incredibly powerful, have huge influence over this president who has many deep business ties to this part of the world, he is no doubt listening to them and their concerns. Again, as we've been saying, just last night, the president had a very long conversation with the emir of Qatar, a person he has very close ties to. You have to remember, Qatar is a country which has gifted the president an Air Force One. That is how close this relationship is. And so the president, no doubt, is calculating and recalculating in real time how to move forward, managing the needs of the U.S. and Israel, but also allies in the Gulf region who are saying, listen, our economies, our societies cannot sustain this because the longer this continues, the more we have to slow or reduce our oil and gas capacity, which means at some point this is going to have a knock-on effect in the global economy. In fact, Qatar's own energy minister warning that if things don't improve soon, oil prices could surge to over $150 a barrel. So the question right now for the Trump administration is, can they, while they continue this war on Iran or in Iran, can they keep global energy moving while this war continues, or whether the economic shock spreads far beyond the battlefield and into the wallets of everyday Americans?
Imtiaz Tyab, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Let's go back now to CBS News Middle East contributor Courtney Kealy. Just your thoughts as we have been in this continuing coverage of the fact that Iran has appointed its new supreme leader.
Right, the third leader in its 47-year history. And it really is important to note that this is a father-to-son transfer, something that the Islamic Republic, that was based on clerical rule, broke away from with the Shah. So he's not, Mojtaba Khamenei, it does not have he's not as a high-ranking religious cleric as one might be as the supreme leader, but he will be in charge of the military, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the elite Al-Quds force that includes intelligence, and the nuclear policy. So he's considered a hardliner. He was considered a gatekeeper of his father's regime. We'll be expecting to hear similar decision-making that his father made. And remember, when the supreme leader speaks, that is the ultimate decision that is made, not the president, not a security chief, regardless of who's standing behind him and supporting him or not supporting him. He will be making these decisions, and now we will start looking to him to know what this regime is going to say in the future. He's most likely in hiding. We don't know if he's in Tehran, and we do know that he's definitely on the target list.
What do you mean by he was a gatekeeper for his father?
He worked out of the supreme leader's office. His dad was the supreme leader. His dad was a grand ayatollah. As you said before when we were speaking, Khamenei had been sort of gifted more religious creds than he actually had after Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, who took charge and returned from exile in Paris, and then he lasted in power for 10 years. So Khatami's father was in power for 37 years, and Mojtaba Khamenei, who has it's been spoken for a while that he might become the leader because his father was ill. It was before this war. His name had been named as a possible successor. The one problem is it's father to son that has a bit of a monarchical. Well, father to son, not the succession of the clerical succession. Yes.
I understand what you mean.
Right. Well, we'll get back to Farsi words and see if we can pronounce those. So Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei, It looks like sort of a dynastic succession as opposed to clerical rule. But in times of war, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is strengthened, especially that Al-Quds force, and he apparently had their backing. And while generals and top leadership of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard keep switching because of the war, because there's so many people targeted, it does not seem like it's fractured enough to be in any way endangering the regime's hold on the people, despite all of these airstrikes.